Okay.
Good evening. Good
I'm
evening,
good, sir.
everyone. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. We are live this evening. This is Heart Matters with your host, Pastor Deborah Barris, coming to you from the Awesome God Radio Show. How was your day? I pray your day was beautiful. We had some beautiful weather in Baltimore, Maryland. The cicadas are like they're going down. It looks like they're trying to leave us. Thank the Lord, because we know that God created them, but we still don't know what their function is. So it's just a little nuisance for us, especially the ladies. But nonetheless, we thank God for all that's going on, and we pray that God is blessing, that you're reaping the benefits of the goodness of the Lord, and that He's working things out in your life. And so we thank God for you coming and being a part of our show on this evening. We thank you for joining us. We are truly, truly excited about this week's show. Last week we talked about um, fatherhood and the importance of males stepping into that role of fatherhood, and but it doesn't always mean that you fathered the child. We thank God for all of the foster fathers, that we, the stepfathers or whatever that we have out of there. But we've been focusing on men issues and male issues this month. And as we go forward, we're going to continue that with my guest this evening. I had reached out about people that looking for recommendations of people that dealt with mentoring males. And I think I got a 2-for-1 in my guest tonight, because he not only mentors males, but he mentors females as well. His name is none other than Alphonso Mayo, and he is the founder of Mentoring Mentors Program, the Mentoring Mentors Program. And we are excited, Alphonso, to have you with us this evening. Good evening to you.
No, good evening, and it's a blessing to be a part of the show. So, thank you for reaching out, and thank you to, I believe it was Whitney Hogan,
Yes.
who dropped my name in the comment section, but I didn't hesitate because I understand how important it is. So, if I can share something to be of encouragement to anyone, I'm going to do it, and so I'm here. So, thank you guys for having me.
Wow, that's awesome. So I think one of my concerns has been about having those role models. When we had our show last week, we talked about the fact that when I was growing up, way back long time ago, you know, um, the fathers in the neighborhood knew how to do different things,
Yeah.
and they taught the younger men how to do certain things. So um, they were mentors to the younger guys. They taught them
Yeah.
how to paint or to work on cars or to do different things, carpentry and different things like that. But and then also we had programs in schools where we had home economics and shop,
Yeah.
where people could learn trades and skills and different things like that. But as time went on, a lot of those things changed. And so some of our young people got kind of lost in the shuffle, so to speak. And so it's good to find out, that there are programs out there to help to bring our young people to where they need to be. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about the Mentoring Mentors program? Just what is it?
Oh, well, first and foremost, what I would always share with individuals, especially in the capacity that you're talking about, I want to make an acknowledgement to this because what I do is considered formal mentoring. But I know so many informal mentors, right? So it's that guy that's next door that take, his neighbor son to church, or it's the guy that always show up at the basketball court. Maybe he used to play basketball, and things didn't work out. But when he's on the court, he's telling them, focus on school, right? Or he's giving them the insight of what can happen if you stay in your community and you're not a positive force, right? So I know a lot of men like that for sure.
Hmm.
Um, those aren't the ones being lifted up. And then to some degree, those are the ones who are often taken for granted. And so for me, when I started to think about the mentor space in general back in like 2013, I was in college. I was at Stevenson University, and I was working a multitude of jobs while I was a full-time student, a full-time dad, and I was playing. I was an athlete, and so I started to reach out to just, hey, like, how could I help in this space? I had already knew that I wanted to do youth development. I was volunteering for another local organization, and I wound up doing something like PRP services, right? Um, and I didn't know much about the space, but the gentleman that I was working for, he had connected me with two young men, 21, after 3 months of being in relationship with him, and he just told me, "Hey, work as many hours as you can because once he age out, you don't have to talk to him anymore." And I was like, "Excuse me, like, what do you mean, right? Like, I just built this relationship with this young person, and you want me to end it?" Um, and I was like, "I can't work here. And because for me, relationships like that aren't supposed to be broken because of an age barrier. And so I started to like do research to see what other mentoring programs was in Baltimore. And there's this one big program by the name of Thread. And I remember applying for a position to work with this organization, and I didn't hear anything back. Um, and I didn't know why, but usually you get a rejection letter. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, here I am, a local guy who's trying to do what's right, who's trying to live up to a high standard. And I want to be able to offer my services in this capacity. But I didn't get it. So at the tail end of coaching football, I had met some young people, and I thought to myself, man, these guys remind me a lot of me. When I was in high school, depressed, angry, struggling academically, holding everything in, thinking to myself, I have to figure this out. Because if I don't figure it out, there's no one there to support me to figure it out. So to some degree, feeling lonely. Um, and I was like, coaching isn't it. Coaching is a form of mentorship, but it isn't really a key, right? Isn't like I was there to train them for a specific
Right,
task.
right.
Outside of the lines, that was between them and them. But God had placed on my heart, like, man, I want you to share something with these young men, and then I want you to give them some guidance, and I'll take care of the rest. And one of those students, well, three of those students came to me and said they wanted to go to the NFL, and I was coaching for one of the worst schools you can possibly coach for in the state of Maryland, at Glen Burnie, and I'm like, there's no way you're gonna go to the NFL from here. Like, no one's recruiting here. But when I got home that night, and I wasn't even really into church, and I wasn't reading my Bible, but something just kept saying, go to them and say, if you stick with me, you'll make it. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because I didn't even make it. So why am I about to make this promise to something that I don't know? So I went back to school the next day, and I said, man, listen, if you stick with me, you'll make it. And this is what I've learned on my journey. The first young man, he listened, he took that information to his father. To God be the glory. He plays for Arizona Cardinals right now. He's going into his third year. The second young man, he didn't listen initially, but I just kept, being in his life, being a positive force. And he wound up listening later on down the line. He wound up receiving over 30 plus Division I offers, and he had some NFL trials. The last young man, he really didn't hear me, and he has the worst results. And so when I knew that I could influence that, I said, well, I want to bring that, here to Baltimore. But initially, as I was thinking about names, I was thinking, you know, discipleship. Really, that's all I kept thinking is like, I don't want to just have a mentoring program where we build these people up and they don't learn how to serve. And so we started off as a community service organization where literally we would just do community service projects, because what I was seeing when I opened up my front door were men like myself, standing on the corner. They were the ones, selling drugs. They were the ones that was, littering. They was the ones who was hurting one another. And I got tired of looking at, like it was like Baltimore Ink or whatever it's called, where you can go look at the murder count and just seeing the endless names, and then the young men between the ages of 16 and 25. And I was thinking, well, I need to help model what success look like and what serving the community look like. Because if you building it up, maybe you won't destroy it. And we really didn't have a mission at all. And I just knew, like, if I could just teach them how to serve, and if they could serve in a capacity where they felt good about what the way they were serving, then we were doing good work. And in 2015, when the Freddie Gray incident happened, we were actually serving younger youth. Um, and I thought that was just a great idea, to serve younger youth. It wasn't my goal, or I didn't have the capacity to serve middle school kids. Um, and in doing so, when the riots took place, we all know that that was younger youth leading that, right? They were lashing out, and understandably so. But my youth wasn't doing that; they were serving. And I'll never forget the middle school kid asking one of my kids, why aren't you out there? Like, to say, you need to be out there. And the young man looked at him and said, well, if I was out there doing that, then who would be here for you? And right then and there, I knew that it was my mission to teach youth the importance of long-term relationship building by serving other youth, because by doing so, they gain leadership skills. They understand empathy. Many of them have the same walks of life, and that we're going to use peer pressure, but in reverse. Uh, because when you're around people, younger youth see high school kids, they know what the next step might look like and feel like. But no, this person is going to be your coach and help you get to that level. And that became our niche. And we just designed something we call the intergenerational near to peer model, where high schoolers are the leaders, they're our interceders, they're our voice. And by doing so, they gain so many different skills. They might not even understand the skills that they're gaining by pouring into someone else, but they're pretty much helping their younger selves. And like that's how they cope with a lot of the things that they've been through. Like, man, I remember when I was that angry kid, or I remember when I was ditching class, or I remember when I was thinking about, sex, or I remember when I was, my dad, my mom was splitting, and they become that voice for us. And so essentially that's what we do. And I don't think it's really Baltimore specifically. I think this problem affects, black and brown children all across this country. And so my goal is to establish it here, build it up here, show that it works here, and then, go across this country and create as many young leaders, create as many mentors, create as many disciples, create as many, followers as we possibly can, so we can really change the narrative in youth development.
Wow, that is absolutely awesome. Thank you for sharing that. A couple of words that you mentioned I want to talk about. The first one is anger,
Mm.
which is a big problem for our young people. Um, where do you believe that a lot of this anger comes from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when I look at youth development, and I think back to my youth, most of my anger and frustration came from being in part of a circumstance I knew I couldn't control. Like, I didn't ask for my family dynamics. I didn't ask to go to the schools. I didn't ask to live in the neighborhoods. And I think, one way that we cope with it is by being angry, because anger doesn't allow people to come in. It pushes people out. And
Right.
that's how, we protect ourselves. And so when you feel like, why am I a part of this, when you know that there's more, right? Like, I always felt like there was more, I just wasn't exposed to more. um, and so a part of that was just like, man, like, I'm tired of this, right? And then I'm a lash out to some degree to try to control my environment. um, but it really doesn't help you control it. It only makes things worse. And so you can be blinded by your anger. And I feel like that's what many youth are experiencing. A lot of them, especially because they have access to technology like never before. And so they see, other communities, they see how other schools operate, they see how other kids have access and opportunity to make millions of dollars. So what about me? My mom was telling me how bad the community was when she was growing up, and ain't much change. So why are we still here? Or, you should be angry that your family isn't prospering and growing. To some degree, you should understand it. And I really think when you add on the systemic issues and the racial issues and the dysfunction within our country and our nation, it does make you angry because you can be a great person, you can be a good person. That's how I felt. I remember when I was like 18, 19, thinking to myself, here I am. I graduated high school in the top of my class. I went to college, and unfortunately, I had to drop out, but I can't even find a job. While all of my other friends, they're making money on the corner, destroying the community. That's something to be angry about, because when you're trying to do it the right way, and the world, they pitch a narrative, go to school, get good grades, go to college,
That
you
is
know,
true. Yeah.
and that's not really your reality. I think that you have every right to be upset when there's this illusion of an American dream, and you're like, well, I'm waking up to a nightmare.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's really something. In some, with even some of the young people that I've talked to, a lot of times their attitude is like, what's the use? Nothing's going to change.
Yeah,
They don't see a way out,
yeah,
because of the way that the system, quote unquote, is set up, you
yeah,
know. And so it is dealing with. So, what process do you use in breaking down that anger?
yeah. No, that's good. So one of the things that I have to constantly remind myself that is nothing. If nothing changed, then something's changing within me, and now I have to be in control of that, right? And that many of the challenges that we see and we face is really just trying to build up my stamina for what God has for me in the future. um, and so I have to change my mind about what my current circumstances are, because everything is really temporary. Like we're living within the confines of 24 hours. Tomorrow will be different.
Right.
You have to really think different. You have to see different. You have to envision different, right? And that's where faith come in, right? you gotta
Mhm.
you gotta believe that there's something better. And so for me, uh, I had to process, like, who is it that I wanted people to be around, um, because toxicity, you can feel it, right? Even if a person is trying to hide it, you can feel it. And so for me, I was like,
Right.
I don't want to feel out of control, if that makes sense. I want to be in control, even though I'm not really in control, but I want to at least be in control of myself, because I'm letting the things that I can't control dictate how I feel about me, how I
Right.
feel about my surroundings, how I feel about my family, how I feel about my community. And at some point, you gotta get tired. But I think what was eye opening for me is when I graduated from high school, I moved to North Carolina. And when I got to North Carolina, I was bombarded with kindness, by Black people. People offering to pay for my gas, and I'm from, you've been from Baltimore City. Like, wait, what are you talking about? So I didn't even realize I was exposed to trauma. I had never really looked at my life like that. But when somebody offer to pay for your gas or welcome you into their home and you don't know them, and you like, whoa, you skeptical. Like, what are you trying to do? Set me up or hurt me? But everybody was like that. And the last day, I'll never forget, my last day, I've only seen this young lady one time in my life. I was standing on the corner crossing the street about to go to class, and some young lady, I don't know her name, I never met her, we never had class together. She looked at me and she said, why aren't you smiling? And in my mind, I'm like, who's she talking to? And she was like, yeah, you. Like, why aren't you smiling? Like, you're young, you're Black, you're living, you're not in jail, you're at school. She was like, you have every right to smile, and you should be proud of that. And so I smiled, and she was like, oh, and you got nice teeth. And she walked off.
Wow.
I never seen her again. So in my mind, I'm thinking, why would she say that to me? And it's because when you live in certain places, like, your face becomes, like, it just naturally, right? Like, you get this hard face because you want people not to you bother you or speak to you or mess with you. But they didn't. A lot of them didn't have that. They were just happy to be living, happy to be around people, happy.
Mhm.
And so when I came back home and I was smiling and, and I was laughing and I started making jokes, my friends who from school couldn't even identify, like, well, who I was becoming, because they was like, what do you, whoa, you smile, like, you don't smile, I'm like, that's not who you are. And so for me, that made me feel better. Um, and that's who I always designed myself to try to. Now, I'm not going to say like I didn't get angry after that. I did. But at the same time, I knew I was in control of it. And I wanted to make people laugh and smile as much as I can. So,
So that to me it sounds like part of the process is breaking down those walls.
yeah, and exposure to other things outside of what's
Yeah,
normal.
right.
I don't think I would have changed had I not,
Left.
yeah, even though it was temporary, I was far enough away to see something different, and that experience and that exposure to everybody being happy, everybody being welcoming,
Right.
like man, this is different, and so
Yeah, and I can see where that would be very important because as long as you are in the midst of a situation, you don't see a way out. But
mm-mm.
you have to be exposed to something else. And a lot of times our children are not, like I tell young girls, there's more to you than a drive by McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah, for sure,
There's some nice restaurants out there. But if you've never been exposed to any of that, all you have is this little circle
yeah,
where you're confined to, then your eyes can't even vision
hmm,
anything, past that point, So
yeah,
I'm glad that you were able to make that connection and to see that because as a result of that, look at what you're doing now. You
yeah,
know what
for
I
sure.
mean? Like,
And it's the small things, like even like when we take kids to 4 and 5 star restaurants, right? And they'll say I want chicken tenders, and I say no, you don't. Like read the menu, right?
yes,
You can get chicken tenders from where we usually get chicken tenders from. It's
yes,
like the little things because they don't quite understand. They're just doing what they're used to, right? What's normal.
right,
But sometimes, and again, you have to get outside of your zip code. Have to get outside of your family. You have to get outside of your school,
mhm,
so you can see something totally different. And so, one of the things that we do with our kids is we travel outside of the state. Like, we went to Kentucky, and in their mind, they was like, "Oh my God, like why are the people down here so different?" They're different. Like they were enthusiastic about meeting new kids, meeting new men,
wow,
meeting new leaders, because they was like, man, like they're embracing me, like so I'm gonna embrace them back.
right,
And so we try our best to do things like that because again, like you only know what you know until you're exposed to something different, is and that's just life. It makes it seems like it's common sense, but a lot of people don't understand that. Like
right,
most people, I haven't met one person in my life that say, man, I'm living wrong when they don't know anything else, right?
yeah,
It's
right,
normal.
right,
So if all your parents did was cuss and you cuss, then your kids cuss and so on and so forth. That's just normal. Until
yeah,
somebody say, hey man, like, we don't do that. Like, man, we have a certain level of respect and
yeah,
standards,
yeah,
and then you're being challenged to change within the moment without even knowing it. And now it's up to you to either be accountable or you're going to resist it. And when you resist it, you get the same results that you've been getting. And so for a lot of people, they start thinking to themselves, why isn't anything changing? It's because you're not changing the people, places, and things that you're accustomed to. Um, but for me, I thank God every day that I had the courage enough to go to North Carolina. I had the courage enough to register for school. I had the courage enough to knock on some of my, my fellow freshman doors and say, hey man, like I'm looking for this and I'm looking for that, and they embrace me. Their voices sound different, um, but they look the same, and their hearts was in a different space. And they taught me so much. Like even like gospel, I'll never forget. His name is, I call him CG, but his name is Cordell Gainey. And he used to play the keyboard by ear, and I just was so impressed because all he was playing was gospel songs. And the first song he introduced me to was No Weapons, and I just remember him playing it on the keyboard and me falling asleep. And that was my introduction to gospel. I had never listened to gospel, but I've never stopped listening to gospel ever since, and so now that's normal for me, right? But,
right,
but it wasn't. And so pretty much, when I think about what we do in the mentor space, is the same thing. Even challenging the music that our students listening to, challenging them when they get on IG. Like, look at the videos that IG is literally
Yeah.
pinging for you. It's a reason, because they see what you're watching, so they're gonna feed you the content that you like.
Right.
Because if
Right.
you go to my IG, you see a lot of motivational speeches, a lot of things challenging us to overcome fears and chase dreams. I'm like, because that's what I'm into,
Right.
and so he's always just challenging yourself to step outside of your comfort zone and do something different.
Wow. That is something. So, how does your mentoring program work? In
Yeah.
other words, how does somebody connect with you? And then what is the next steps? How does the program work?
Well, first, what people have to understand is that we have a mission to address, negative effects of adverse childhood experience, right? Many young people in this city have been exposed to traumas, right? And it looks different for each and every one of us. And
Right.
our resilience level is different in each and every one of us. But our ultimate goal is to build community of intradependency, right? Where you have a support group. And like, we want people to be committed to long-term relationships. I myself struggled with abandonment issues, and that was perpetuated throughout my life. People I thought were my friends weren't my friends. And so what our goal is to teach them, hey, when you're in this for a lifetime. That's what we say, right? We don't make you sign a contract or anything like that, but we're letting you know that we're going to continuously do this work, and then we're going to hold you accountable for being a part of this work as well. And so we strive to achieve that. And number one, enhancing students' academic achievements, inspiring them to be confident in every single thing that they do, and exposing them to just positive mentoring experiences, because the truth is about their future, right? So we have a vision where every black and brown child, they're embraced, right, by a loving adult, by their peers, by their educators, right? It's not about their zip code or anything like that. And so we start now with middle school students, right, sixth through eighth grade. And literally what we do is, when we go to a school, we say, hey, we would like to identify 15 to 30 students, male and females, who may be struggling academically. And what we're saying is, a C minus, a D plus, right? Many of the schools have identified these students as problems, but we have identified them as potential.
Which
Because,
is a big difference.
yeah, because
Because
honestly,
once they label them, that
mhm,
follows them.
yeah. And some of the students have embraced that. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go recruit little Mayos, right? The student that was suspended every other week, the student that
Yeah.
struggled reading with math, but was lacked confidence to say, hey, I can't do this and I need help. So we identify those students. And the first thing we do is we reach out to parents and we say, hey, listen, we want your student to be a part of our program, because once they sign up to our program, they're now they're our responsibility. Is a dual thing. And you wouldn't believe the response you get from parents, because a lot of times we don't have as active parents as we would like. But the truth is, your student's success and their life depend on how active we are together, because what we're going to do is change the normalities, right? What's culturally acceptable. We're changing that culture, and that we're changing that notion. And so we have to be on the same wave and the same page length, so that we can maximize our student potential. And so when students come to our program, the first thing we do is we look at their academics and we challenge them. Hey, we have to move forward, right? And so we designed a tutoring program where students are meeting with tutors, twice a week, hour sessions. And in that, we're not just saying, hey, we want you to do your work. We're looking at where our students are uh, fundamentally, right? So they do an assessment. And if you're on the first grade level, we start you there and we build you up, right? Because we know that students who are struggling academically, a lot of times they do have low confidence. And so we want to be able to give them confidence by saying, man, you went from a D to a C minus to a C plus, and so on and so forth. And so that's the first thing we offer. The
Right.
second thing we offer is, one, you're going to be a part of a support group. Everyone that's in this mentoring program is going to support you, because they're going to look at you like a brother. So that comes or brother or sister. So that comes with a level of accountability. You will no longer be able to show up and pretend or say, I can't, because they're gonna be like, well, you can, and this is what you shared with us.
Mm.
And if you like hook school or you miss class, when they come to program, just know everybody knows, and you're gonna be held accountable. Like, hey, why weren't you in class, right? And we had some students in the past say, man, why y'all snitching? And then our students who've been in the program was like, no, we don't we don't accept that. We're holding you accountable because you shared your dreams and goals with us, and all we want to do is see you win. And so we do that because we meet with the students, sometimes 4 times out of the week, sometimes 6. But it's really about being consistent, seeing our students every single day, whether that's for an hour and a half or 2 hours, or on the weekend for 3 to 4 hours. But it's really about having a level of consistency and commitment, to our students. And as they continuously go through our program, one of the things that we offer is community service. Again, you can't be in this program if you're not going to serve, because this is what it is. We can't teach you to serve if we all we do is talk. Serving is an action word. And so we sign up for church cleanups or picnics or food drives. Even through the pandemic, we never stopped serving. Many of our students and even their parents, they had concerns, but our students was like, come on, man, like, let's do it. Our students at one point in time, they wanted to serve every weekend. And I was like, man, I don't even got the capacity. Like, I still got a family. And they was just like, no, come on, let's do it. And I'm like, man, you can't, y'all got all the time in the world. And so community service is a big part of what we do. And then one of my favorite things is we usually do it on Thursdays, and when we was in person, we would order dinner and we would break bread, but we would bring in what we consider leaders by example. What are leaders by example? It's people that look like you, that's where you from, who went through the same shared life experiences. But man, they the CEOs, they the athletes. They started the business, right? So it can even be your dad, right? It can be the school janitor. But these people have moved beyond what the world perspective was, or the normalities for what they thought they should have done, or the outcomes that they could have had, and they share their life experience. Just recently we had a guy by the name of Chuck Clark. He's the Ravens starting safety. We didn't even know who he was coming into the call, but when he shared about just being dedicated, by making a commitment, by being coachable, by working hard, like, the students understood, and that's usually a common theme for our leaders of example. And my sister, she's a Baltimore City police officer. She spoke to our young women about being consistent, working hard, presenting yourself a certain way, and so when you think about those things, and you're putting all of these different people where this, because the schools don't have people that look like that teaching these classes,
Right.
it gives the kids a different perspective on what my life could be, because there's a notion in our, especially amongst our young men, that either I rap, I trap, or I play sports. And they don't think that you can make money any other way. But then when you bring somebody in there, he an older guy, he looked just like you, and he telling you, man, I run a hedge fund, and I have this investment portfolio, and I have this real estate. Oh man, and I'm making it, like, it's totally different. And even though we don't make it about the money, we make it about the relationships, because we always tell them that your net worth your net worth is your net worth. And you just have to understand that being in relationship with people who want to see you get there. Like, these people are not there and want to be there by themselves. They came out to speak to you because they want to give you and inspire you to be better. And so that's another thing we do. And now most of our kids are in high school, and so what we're building out is a way for them to leave high school with certifications. It's our job to close the gap to poverty. Many of our students and their families suffer because of social economics. And there's this notion that, go to college, get a degree, get a good job. And I'll be the first to say that's not true. I love school. I'm very educated. I went to John Hopkins, I went to Stevenson. But coming from poverty, going to college, taking out a loan, being
Right.
$104,000 in debt,
Exactly.
come from poverty only makes me deeper in poverty. And so what
Right.
we're doing is we're teaching our kids how to wean out of that and come out of that. And then we're offering a summer program where we're introducing them to information technology, nature, fitness, and just a world of fun. And so, it's our goal to stay on top of it. We talk to our kids on a daily, if it's text, if it's direct service. Like most of my kids, or the kids that I have real deep, intimate relationships with, they're usually with me. It's in some capacity, right? Um, because we love them. Like, and it's genuine love. It doesn't matter how we get them. It's just as long as if they want to change, then we're going to help them be the change that they're seeking to see, and we're going to support them so that their dreams could come true. Because in my spirit is, you know, I'm always thinking about what God told me to do with those high schoolers. No, go tell them if they stick with you, this is going to happen. And so I'm telling them, if you stick with me, whatever that dream you shared when I first met, I don't care if it's an executive chef, I don't care if it's uh, a designer, it's going to happen, because your dream is now my dream. And my dream is to make sure that you live out your dream and your goals. Because in a city like Baltimore, the truth is, when you're living out your dreams, you don't have time to kill people. You know, when you're living out your dreams, you don't got time to bicker and argue. When you're living out your dreams, you're not standing on somebody's corner. When you're living out your dream, you don't have time to disrespect people, because you're living out your fullness, right? You're being what God has called you to be. And so my goal will always be to inspire people to live out their dreams and live up to their fullest potential. And so that's pretty much what we offer as a program. But we want to be there to support the teachers. But the system makes it hard sometimes. Because
Really? How is that? Why is that?
we have two different philosophies, right? Like my goal isn't just to push them through. My goal is to educate them, make sure that even if you get through, you know, I want to make sure you got it, right? And it ain't just about getting through. Um, like there's this notion that a lot of programs use, saying like 80% of our students graduated. That's such a low bar. Like,
Right.
you're supposed to graduate. Like, that's supposed to be normal, right? And
And,
so
and and even if they graduated, did they learn anything? You
so we got
understand
to
what I
make
mean?
sure
Or
we
did
got
they just graduate with a C? You
yeah.
know, something like that. So one of the in all of this, one word keeps popping to my mind: exposure.
Hmm.
Your program seems to be all about exposure, exposing them to so many different things that they aren't used to, which is great. So my question is, how has exposure played a part in your success rate?
So, success
Now, when
again.
I say success, I'm not.
Yeah,
I don't mean like they went on to become the founder.
yeah,
Da, 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 da.
right,
I
right.
don't
No,
mean
I
like
understand.
that, but I mean from where they are. You know what your what's the word I want to use? I'm pretty sure that you have sort of like a goal map that you set that
Hmm.
you want each person to reach.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
know, there's some things that you want them to achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
And listening at you talk about exposure, I was just curious as to how much has that exposure played a part in all of that.
Yeah. So initially, when we started with young men, right? And we would do things like go to John Hopkins and for tutoring. And this is back before we had like metrics and all of this nonprofit fancy stuff that people ask you to have. But all of our young men, they did graduate. So kudos for that. But that was a low bar. But I was more impressed when each and every one of them got into a college, right? Because initially we didn't focus on social economics, but all of them got into a college. Um, to date, well, three of them will be graduating next year. One of them he finished at a junior college. One of them did graduate, and two of them they didn't finish. So we take those things like personal, like for the ones that didn't stay, or for whatever the reason may be. So when we look at our successes, it's not about some of us; it's about all of us, right? We all want to cross the finish line, um, and that's just a level of accountability that most organizations don't have. And so for me, when we are able to hold each other accountable to a high standard, that's success. When I hear a kid challenge another kid to say, "Hey, bro, like you supposed to be doing XYZ. That's success. Uh,
Yeah.
because what happens is when you change the philosophy, you change the belief system. And what I can say, and what I can prove this for sure, that every student that started with us, we even did this last night doing a report. Most of our students, they started off with a zero point 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1.2, 1. Most of them, majority of our students. When we looked at all of the students that we started with in middle school, our average GPA for the first cohort of young men, it was about 13. The average GPA was a 0.8 something. But when you look at our overall GPA today, it is a lot higher, right? And individually, like we have a student, he's here with me now, who went from a zero point 0.9 to a 3.43. So when you think about like those, and this is just based solely off of accountability, him knowing that people going to check, people going to ask, people going to expect, our expectations has changed. So his expectations have changed. And so that for me is success. And just to know that all of the young men that we started with, we have zero arrest. These are now young men. They don't have to listen. They choose to listen. We have none of them have been arrested. So for me, I'm extremely proud to know that, I thought by, having them serve community, I didn't want them to destroy the community, and none of them have played a part in destroying the community. They might not be doing direct service or working in community, but they're not destroying it. They're not killing anybody. That's success to me.
Right.
And that makes me proud to say, man, like, oh my God, like we started with them and look at what they're doing. Now, when it comes to like the middle school kids, what we know to be true is that everyone can't handle that level of accountability. And the apple usually don't fall too far from the tree. And students usually go to what's least resistance. And so if we're teaching you one way and you like, man, they're too hard on me, or, my mom don't even make me do this, we lose those students. And so we look at every student who don't have the resiliency to finish as, man, we wish we could have done something different. But hopefully, the word says that if you train a child up, even if they depart, they return to those ways. Hopefully we done enough that they'll return to their ways. But most of the young people, even if they didn't finish with us in middle school, a lot of them, we know how they're doing based upon their interactions. If they're avoiding us, it's because they digress. They're not living up to that standard. Because the ones, even if they no longer like in our program for whatever reason, maybe they moved or maybe they play sports or whatever the case may be, they'll still reach out and interact on, Instagram. They'll like photos. They'll say, man, I missed the program, because they still have that level of standards for themselves and they're meeting every expectation. That's success. And so the more students and more people we get to believe in that, that's success. The grade's going to change for sure. They're going to serve each other for sure. They're going to serve community for sure. That's success. But ultimately, in some years to come, if we can get our students to graduate, with the certifications that we got coming in place, and they're being able to walk into the world at age 18, 19 and offer themselves to an employer, and they can demand, 65, $70,000, that's ultimately, that's success, because we want
Right.
to be able to close that poverty gap. Um, but every single day we get a chance to serve, like most people don't count this, but every day we get a chance to wake up and serve our kids. That's success. Just to know like, hey, we get a chance to be a part of their life and they get a chance to be a part of our lives.
Wow. That is amazing. You are amazing. And the reason I say that is because you have such a humble spirit. You're um, a lot older than your youth. Your mind is all the way like an old person would think. The wisdom that you have as such a young man is remarkable. How do the parents work along with you all in this process?
So, I mean, the active parents, because we categorize them in two groups, right? We have inactive and we have active. So the active parents, they're on key. That young man didn't go from a 0.9 to a 3.4 without his dad being active. But if I call his dad up and say, hey man, we're on, I don't know where your son at, he will drive home and you can hear him on the phone. Man, what you doing? You need to be on a call. Or they coming to pick you up. He's very active. And
Okay.
so when he's showing his son, like, hey, you being on that call is as important to me as it is for you, I'm always blessed. Then we have some inactive parents and we see inconsistency. But one of the things that we do is I don't shy away from telling parents the truth. There's no guideline or no book or playbook for being a good parent. But what we have to also understand is that if you're not in this hand in hand, we will never have the level of success that we truly want because you are the guide. Your child see you. So if we're telling them go home and read for an hour, but every time they see you and you watching your favorite show, that's what they're gonna do. If they see you always on Instagram and Facebook, then that's what they're gonna do. And so I'm not one to shy away from, loving on our parents for sure and letting them know like, hey, we appreciate your support, but then vice versa. Hey, we need your support because it's urgent. We know the way that this world see our black and brown children, especially our young men. Uh, and we got to be a part of breathing life into them. And so either you're going to be with us or you're against us. And I not against in like a negative connotation, but you're against the principles and beliefs. So,
Yeah.
when we have an award ceremonies and your student is not being called because they haven't changed the standard, don't blame them.
Right.
Blame you. It's that man in the mirror effect. And so, for the most part, what I can say, and one of the things that we love to do now, again, before COVID, we did like several different parent engagements events, whether it was a sip and paint, we did a karaoke night, we did a bowling night, we did a movie night, just to get our parents out, get them talking, because one of the things that we know is it's challenging being a parent. I'm a parent, right? And I don't think I'm perfect for sure, but I'm active, And so if we can always get our parents to be active, and we know which ones are active because they the ones that come to every event,
Right.
you know, they'd be like, man, I'm coming to that. And then our parents come to again when before COVID, we will have like a Christmas engagement, we will have a Thanksgiving engagement, and the parents really did come to that, and that's where they get a chance to feel that family feel, and then they know, man, like this is important. And some of the parents want it more than their youth. Like really, they want it more than the youth. But we let them know, like your youth have to want this as well because it's
Yeah.
important in life. So,
Right. Because they'll keep pushing to
yeah.
succeed if they really, really want it. Yeah, definitely. Well, it's good that you do have the parents' involvement. And I know that it's probably a big help. Because as they say, we say this saying all the time, it takes a village. It's
Hmm.
not just one or two people that can do it. It takes a whole lot of people to bring that child to that level of understanding who they are and what they would like to be in life. Um, so it's good to hear that this is a program that does it for not just males, that does it for females too, and it's coming from your heart. It's not something where we're just going to do this and make some money and whatever. How is your program funded?
Yeah, I love that question. So again, because it is coming from my heart, I always tell people I don't necessarily need to be paid for this. I would do this if I had a career as an NFL player or college, whatever. I still would do something very similar to that capacity. Um, we are heavily funded by foundations and grants and individual giving. And so we're always looking for, it doesn't matter if a person give $1 or $100 a year, every dollar, it adds up. This year was the first year we was able to bring someone on board, one of our longstanding mentors, who've been with us since 2017. And he just always was willing to serve. And so when we got a grant from the city, we opened up a position for him. Um, and so what we're trying to do is develop a different funding model for sure, because grants are not guaranteed, and we know that. And so what we're trying to do is continuously build out our individual donor base, right? Having our families be a part of that, having our school systems be a part of that. Um, Even some of our students are a part of that. Like, they'll get $10 and donate the $10, right? So it's like just having the community really be a part of that. But I would be remiss if I told you, man, we have a phenomenal board. We have a phenomenal board leader. Well, several phenomenal board leaders, but it's led by a gentleman by the name of Christopher Gonzalez, who is a go-getter. He was in the military, and now I understand why. Um, he was a Marine, and his personality come out when it's time to go seek and make sure this is funded. Rachel Lewis, who is our co-chair, our co-vice chair, she's been with us since the beginning. She's not afraid to say, "Hey, listen, we got to pay for this, right?" Because the mission won't go far unless it's fueled, and that's what their goal is. And so we have right now 14 phenomenal board members. We have 2 students on our board. We have a parent on our board, and we just have some amazing individuals. From radio personality hosts to lawyers, to real estate agents, to IT professionals, to tutors. Like, we have a phenomenal mixture of people who really want to see this work because they understand how important it is. And everybody we talk to tell us how different we are. And we do believe we're different because I do believe, like, this is, at the age of 14, God told me that I would be serving in youth development. And I think it's God led. And so, again, we're going to have challenges, but at the same time, we have a really great support group. And without them, none of this is possible. And so, yeah, so we write a lot of grants, though. Trust me.
So how do people make donations?
So, we just got a new system this year. We was tired of doing like the cash apps and all of that other crazy stuff. Our accountant didn't like that. They was like, "No, man, get one system." And so now we send everybody to our website, and it's www.mentoring-mentors.org. And you just go on there, you go to, give, and then pull up the sheet. And then, you can say if you want to, be a recurrent giver. We ask people, man, no matter what you give, we're super grateful.
Say
We
it
believe
again. Say the website again.
www.mentors.org/give, or you can just do .org. Check out our website. Check out some of the phenomenal board members I spoke about earlier, our phenomenal team that's led by, myself and Steve Sneed. Some of our mentors are on there. All of our kids are on there. And just see some of the work that we're doing. And, if you feel compelled to give, you might say to yourself, I can give $500 in a year. If that's what you can give, thank you, because we're going to maximize the potential to use that. That's how we travel out of state. We got something special for our kids who are in our summer program. I won't say it on here just in case some of them watch it or see this, but they're traveling. We're going somewhere.
Wow.
They're going to get something that, only I would have dreamt of when I was a kid, and so for me, it's like, that doesn't happen without our board giving, without our events, without our board speaking up on our behalf. Uh, and so, if they want to give, you give on our platform, and we're always grateful. And if you can't give, you might be connected to someone who can give. Be the voice, intercede for us. You might have a friend who owns a business, and that business want to be promoted. So, businesses can be sponsors as well. You
Right.
know, and we're always seeking, individuals to say, "Hey, look, I want to step up," because the more that people give, the more we can serve, the more uh, training we can do, so that we can really start to hit pockets of work. Because, like you said, you can't do this by yourself. I'm only one person, but could you
Right.
imagine if I could duplicate, 10 of me, and we're
Right.
around this, around Maryland, and we're
Exactly.
working? It's a total different feeling. So
Right. And there are a lot of people that would be more than willing to participate as they learn. I definitely will be sharing
yeah,
the information about the program, and I will be donating to the program. Is
thank
this
you.
program just for inner city youth?
No, we have kids that live as far as Arundel Mills. Um, what is that? Essex. Um, However, what we do when the kids live a certain distance, we do ask parents to make a commitment to meeting us halfway. Last year we was able to purchase our first van. We're seeking to purchase another van this year.
Really?
Yeah, we just want to serve. Initially, we started operating in Windsor Hill community, and so majority of our students do come from these communities. Uh, but if a student is want to be a part of it and a parent is committed, because it takes a commitment. No, we're gonna serve. We're not turning down, any kids. We just ask that they start as early as sixth and seventh grade, because we there's a philosophy, and we've tried to do it. We've done some experiments where we tried to accept 10th and 11th graders, and it just didn't pan out in our favor.
Yeah.
And so we feel like if we can get this philosophy to them as early as we possibly can, sixth, seventh grade, eighth grade is a little skimpy, but we believe that our sweet spot is sixth and seventh grade. Man, we're gonna take them and we're gonna help them as best as we can.
Wow. Well, this has been an interesting conversation, learning about your program, not just about the program, but about your philosophy
Yeah,
and how you approach the situation as far as helping our young people, because it's definitely needed. And we thank God. I really love the fact that it's a mentoring mentors program that just means so much to me, because you not only give, but then you teach them to serve,
yeah,
others, which is very, very important. So I'm just really, really thankful for you. Thank you for joining us on your on this program, and you'll be hearing from me again, because I would like to partner with you in some things and to share some information with some other pastor friends of mine that we would like to have you come and be a part of. I see you got little people in the background.
yeah. That's my son. He usually make a cameo. He'll, he'll kiss me on my cheek, or he'll say I love you. I remember the first time I did like a news interview, and he just like grabbed the back of my neck and was kind of like holding me tight, and he was choking me while I was doing the interview. But I was like, you know, so
It's all good. It's all good. Yes, definitely. Yes. So would you like to give some closing remarks as we bring this all to an end?
yeah, sure. Now again, like none of this is planned. I don't want people to think we had this planned out. No questions were sent to me, but all in all, when it comes to youth development, I think that there's a statement that most people use. They say that youth are the future. That's the worst statement anyone could use. They're not our future. They're our now. They're our present. And whatever we teach them now, they will use in the future. And so, I never blame youth for the way their outcomes are. I have to blame the people who are teaching them the poor lessons for their outcomes, because youth don't care about what we say, they care about what we do. They mimic our actions to a T. And so I'm going to encourage you, if you want to see better results for your youth, whether it's a male or female, change your actions. Like, don't be the one that talk all the time. Be the one that do all the time, and then explain to them why you do what you do so that they can get better results. Because that's how we're going to change our youth circumstances. Because if you don't teach them right, they'll learn all of the bad things from their friends,
Exactly.
and be wise enough to monitor who's in their life. What
Right.
I tell my youth is you should only accept quality people, people who have standards, people
Right.
who have goals, people who are on a mission.
Right.
Be a parent to say, that's a quality friend, that's not your friend, right? Be that person, because they're not our future. They're our right now. Uh, and if we don't accept that, then we won't have a good future. So, and as always, never get comfortable.
I love that. That should be on a t-shirt. Never
It
get
is. It
comfortable. Yeah.
is. It's on the
Oh,
back
yeah.
of our t-shirts. Yeah.
Okay, well, I have to find out about the t-shirts. But again, we say thank you to you, ladies and gentlemen. We have been with Alphonso Mayo, founder of the Mentoring Mentors program here in Maryland. And this has been an awesome conversation. Please, if you're just coming in, you're still able to go back and listen to the recording of this show. He brought us a lot of information, and we thank the Lord for the lives that are being changed through his program. Uh, He seems like a person that doesn't talk a lot about himself, but about the work that's being done. And we thank God for that. And we just pray for the continued success of your program. We pray for all of those who are working with you. We pray and ask God to just continually bless you with favor and increase, that the monies will come from the north, the south, the east, and the west, that favor will be upon your ministry, because this is not just a program, this is a ministry when you start reaching out to people like that. And so I just thank God for you. I thank God you are a young man that could be doing a lot of other things. And that's my goal, is to reach people that are doing positive things, so that we can hear about them, so that we can post about them, so that we can share what it is that you're doing. Because I was just thinking about the fact that all of those ones that you said, the students who started out with a 0 point something and went to a 3 point something, or whatever they whatever grade level they mastered. Just think, had you not, or one of your team, interacted in their life, they would have been categorized as somebody that can't.
Yeah.
So the potential was there, but they needed somebody to push the potential to the possible. And so we thank you for that. We thank you. You have just been awesome, and we appreciate you being here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pastor Deborah Barris of Heart Matters on the Awesome God radio station, saying thank you for listening to this evening, and always remember that I love you, but God loves you best, and always remember that your heart matters. Peace.
Thank you.